Hello, my fellow magic makers, and welcome back to the most magical channel on Earth. One day I was just thinking I want to watch a new show, and I heard a show called The Owl House was good, so I checked it out. It is one of the greatest animated shows I've ever seen. And a good reason for that is due to its many, many well-written characters. But there's one character I want to focus on today, the main villain of the series, Emperor Belos. In case you don't know, the Owl House is about a girl called Luce. Ends up in this place called the Boiling Isles and trains to become a witch. While standing up to the Boiling Isles' evil leader and the topic of today's video, Emperor Belos. Before Belos ever actually appears, he already has a big impact on the show as a whole. You see, in the Boiling Isles, you need to join these things called covens. Like the Illusion Coven. Or the Construction Coven. And once you join one, they'll give in this thing called a sigil. Which makes it so you can only use the kind of magic that that coven practices. For example, if illusionists in the Illusion Coven can only use illusion magic. It's basically a rule that you can only do one kind of magic by the time they're an adult. Except if you get into the Emperor's Coven. Then they're allowed to use any kind of magic. Except, of course, by joining the Emperor's Coven, they're allowed to use their magic the way the Emperor wants you to. You may be able to use whatever magic you want, but they're still not free. Those who refuse to join a coven are branded wild witches and criminals. Like Ida, Luce's witch teacher. So it's basically a system where, if you truly want to practice every kind of magic and reach their full strength, you need to walk directly under the Emperor. And only do it the way he permits it. Otherwise, you join one of the weaker covens, and their magic is eternally least to a lower level. Belos has let to appear in that his impact is totally felt. Of course, when Belos does appear, whoa boy, does he have presence. He just captures and demands attention all the time. Because he always is just, well, he's the Emperor, so he always just has such control over the whole scene and everyone in it. And he just gives off a true, powerful vibe. And this helps make him very intimidating as a villain. Also, when he's first introduced, he's very sad, adult and mystery. This makes you very interested in seeing, what's behind that mask. What's he hiding? Now, I'd like to bring up the fact that Belos isn't even his real name. He's actually a witch hunter named Philip Widderbane from the human realm who came to the demon realm to kill all the witches and demons because they're so evil. Spoiler alert, they are not evil at all. So, Belos came up with a plan to wipe them all out. saying that he had the ability to speak to the Titan, basically that god, who's actually the whole island. It's a bit complicated, but the island, the Northern Isles, is a dead Titan. It made it seem like losing magic freely was very dangerous, and would blow up whole cities and blame wild magic for it. And he told everyone he had the ability to fix all of it. By joining the coven and gaining a sizzle, they could make their magic pure again, like the Titan intended, he said. Of course, this was all part of his witch hunting plan. By branding every Witchen demon with a sizzle, they'd be ready for the day of lunity. Day of a solar eclipse. Witch would make it so every witch with a sizzle would die. Then he'd go home and be welcomed as a hero to all the humans. But Belos had many obstacles in his way. For example, he's actually like 100 years old. And he can't die until the day of the solar eclipse. Oh, he's managed to keep himself alive by consuming these magical things called talisman. By the way, Belos knows about the drain spell and all from this guy, the Collector. He's a little boy with the powers of a god trapped in a prison, who Belos talks to. Belos promised that he'd set him free in exchange that he teaches him powerful magic, gives him the draining spell, and helps him kill all the witches. I'm sorry, he's totally gonna hold up his end of the deal. Belos is the most powerful magic user on the island, but he has many other strengths too. Like, he is a master manipulator. Like, he could write a book about it. And a very, very gifted liar. The reason Belos is so great at this is because he has a very good talent for spotting weakness. He sees Lilith's guilt. He sees Hunter's desire to be useful. He sees the Collector's loneliness. Since he can spot their weaknesses, he knows exactly what they want to hear and exactly how he can use them to follow his own goals. It's a good look into his mindset. No one else matters to Belos. Everyone else is just a tool to be used by him. He only cares about himself. And if one of his tools ever turns against him, he can just throw it away and get a new one. Even if you remain loyal to Belos, to the dying breath, he'll still just get rid of you. If you have no further use to him. Because at the end of the day, he's the only one that matters, right? Belos is also extremely patient. Like, he had to wait like 100 years for the day of duty and set everything up properly. But he is determined. Insanely determined. Like, the Collector's able to move the sun and moon around. So he really could just, like, let the Collector go. And he could have just made, and the Collector could have just made the day of duty happen right there. But, nope. Belos Ain't taking risks like that. He's going to wait 100 years to make sure everything goes perfectly. Also want to mention this one scene where he's announcing the Day of Liberty to the Boiling Isles and make it sound like this great event which will make it that everything in the Boiling Isles is perfect forever and like it's not a total death trap. Of course, he can't have any of them knowing that. And the way he announces it, he does try to make it sound as good as possible. But of course, he does have some threatening things in it, like how wild magic will be gone forever. He's being very vague, and that could be kind of scary. So that's to ensure that everyone's on his side. He decides to take his mask off. You see, all of his subjects had not seen him. Well, his face before. So by doing this and thanking them for all of the support that they give him, he makes it seem like he's a total hero for all of this, and that he's really just trying to help everyone. But really, it's just a way to manipulate them into believing his lies, so he can keep his witch hunting ultimate plan going.
He's just trying to distract us from his crazy utopia talk. Too bad it won't work.
Thank you, Boiling Isles.
Not a spoiler alert, it totally works. Though Belos has many strengths, he also has many weaknesses. The main one being his pride. Like, if I had to describe Belos in one word, it'd be prideful. Belos commits so many evil actions throughout the course of the series, and that pridefully insists that he's the hero in all this, who is saving humanity from the evils of the demon realm and all the witches and demons in it. Even though he literally has ruled over the kingdom where he gets to talk to them and get to know them, etc., like all the people walking under him, and he said know that they are not all pure evil, and that's still stubbornly insists that they are monsters and need to be vanquished, even though they are not in any way hurting the humans in the other dimension. Most of them don't even have access to that dimension, and therefore can't go there. Even if there was no way that witches could ever interact with humans again, and could therefore never hunt them, he'd still hunt them down. Thus for their crime of existing. Not only is Belos evil than every witch on the island, but he's even more of a monster than them. Do you see, know all those talisman he eats to keep himself alive? Well, they kinda mess with his body a little, and sometimes when he's, extremely emotional, he turns into a monster and tears things apart to calm himself down. And sometimes tries to kill people. So basically, he turns into a monster and, tries to kill people. And that he is apparently the hero in all this, if you ask him. Belos sees himself superior to everyone. Because he's apparently more of a hero and a good person than everyone, but also because he's human and he believes humans are the superior species. And he also looks down on our main character, Luce. viewing her as a human who has been corrupted by the evils of this dimension, by all of the terrible witches in it. And by that he means that she actually cares about the people in this dimension. And that he looks down on her for this, saying that she is crazy. We already discussed that his real name is Philip Widowbane, and he gets very angry when people are aware of his name and that still call him Belos, because Belos is just the name he came up with to trick everyone and follow him, and believe in him. Then that's a name that he came up with to call the evil witches and demons. That's not his real name. That's the name of a leader of a kingdom of evildoers. His real name is Philip, the name of a witch hunter who will save the world by killing all of them. And basically, being called Belos is basically an insult to him. Because it basically makes him sound as evil as all the people here. And he's above all them. Right. And his pride truly comes back to bite him in many cases, one of which being when Luce offers him a deal. C goes back to the human realm with him, since he hasn't been back in 100 years, and therefore doesn't know all the changes, and Luce would be able to help him with that. In exchange, C makes a deal with him that he will spare all her friends. And to end the deal off, C calls him Philip, which is basically her way of manipulating him by telling him what he wants to hear. People basically regarding him as Philip, regarding him as a hero. And therefore, he decides to accept the deal. Except it was actually a trick so he could gain the advantage in their fight. Boom. And brand him with a sigil, therefore making him victim of his own spell. I find this a good instance of his pride being used against him. But of course, there is many more. There's also the time where Belos captured Ida, and Lilith, Ida's sister, assumes that Belos is gonna heal Ida because she is actually cursed, and sees in Lilith's Belos's right-hand woman. So she thought that Belos would heal Ida, she could join the Emperor's coven, and they'd all live happily ever after. But nah. Belos was the stall like, wait, do you actually thought I was gonna hold up my end of the deal? Huh, that's stupid. And thus walks away. This leads Lilith to join Luce and the good guys. Once again, Belos seeing himself above everyone else, being very prideful, leads to a downfall. Another instance of Belos' pride leading to someone turning against him is with Kikimora. When Kiki offers to be Belos' new right hand, Belos basically says that he's more likely to cut off one of his arms. going out of his way to be especially cruel and mean. Thus seeing Kiki as very beneath him, a failure. This leads to Kikimora betraying Belos, due to realizing that she's not actually valued. Though the biggest instance of Belos' own pride coming back to bite him is with the Collector. How Belos promised to set the Collector free, well, when it came time to actually do it, he threw the dang that the Collector was trapped in down a cliff, and therefore him with it, refusing to do it so he can't say the magical secrets which he gave him without anyone else, and of course make it so the Collector can't get out because he's basically the only one more powerful than him. Which leads to King, one of the good guys, finding the Collector and freeing him. And once the Collector's free, he stops the drain spell and one-shots Belos. He's not dead yet, but he's pretty close. If there's one thing I love about Belos, it's how he's both so similar and so opposite to our main character, Luz. Luz and Belos are both humans who learned magic coming here, but it's basically where the similarities end, which of course still makes them have some things in common, but in terms of their goals and personalities, they could not be more different. For example, on how opposite they are, Luz's name in Spanish and stuff basically means light. Which makes sense. See, one of her main spells is a light spell, making balls of light. And Belos is usually represented by shadow in darkness, being the opposite of light, and therefore being the opposite of Luz. Something different about them also is how they view the Boiling Isles. Luz views it as this magical place with nice witches where she can learn magic and go on fun adventures and grow as a person. Belos views it as this place that's just disgusting and full of evil creatures which need to be destroyed for the good of mankind. Creatures that are far beneath him. Belos also very much affects Luz as a person, as any good villain should affect their main character. For example, attempt to get the portal door to the human realm from Luz. Luz ends up having to destroy the portal home to make it so Belos can't get in, therefore cutting off all connection with her home and separating her from her mother. Though this is probably like the last thing Luz would ever want to do, Belos pushed her into the situation, and she was waiting to do it just to make sure that her mom and home dimension were safe. Of course, this frustrates Belos. Another instance which especially affected Luz is in an episode where she didn't know that Philip Winterbane and Belos were the same person. All she knew about Philip is that he was a human that came to the Boiling Isles a long time ago and went back in time thinking that maybe he could tell her how she could build a portal home. But instead, she accidentally helps Belos meet the Collector. And then later finds out that Philip and Belos are the same person, and that she kinda accidentally helped Belos become as powerful as he is. Which makes Luz feel very, very guilty. And kinda makes her feel responsible for every bad thing that's happened because of Belos. She starts to wonder if, like, she's the real bad guy in all this. Despite it really just being an accident, she's really just being too hard on herself. That is not opposite thing between them. Belos stubbornly believes that he's the hero in all this because he's built his ego up, and it's absolutely massive, and he's just too prideful to admit that he could ever be in the wrong. Meanwhile, Luce feels like she's the bad guy in all this. So that's a simple mistake because she's too hard on herself. And doesn't appreciate just how great of a person she actually is. I want to talk about this amazing scene in King's Tide, in the episode King's Tide, between Luce and Belos, where Belos is offering Luce a chance to go home due to him not wanting to see another human life destroyed by this evil place, to which Luce responds with,
"You're such a hypocrite. You talk big about protecting humanity, but after everything you've done, you're barely human yourself."
To which Belos decides to just double down and just tries to just kill Luce, saying that it'd probably be better just to put her out of her misery. This scene, I think, really shows the dynamic and stuff between these two characters. Just how prideful Belos is. And how good of a person Luce is. The biggest difference between Luce and Belos is their effect on other people. I think like the fight between Ida and Lilith shows what I'm talking about pretty well. Sisters, both very good at magic, fighting, an epic witch's duel. The two other people watching the duel, Luce and Belos. Ida, who is fighting for Luce's safety, since he was captured and all, who has been very impacted by Luce as a person, in fighting very powerfully due to her strong emotions and desperately trying to get Luce back. And Lilith, who is Belos' right-hand woman, who has become very lost in Belos' advice, which is not good advice. And she's fighting to heal Ida's cost, which is just another lie that Belos has told. So as you can see, it's basically like two opposites. Ida fighting for Luce's safety because she cares about her. And Lilith, who is fighting just because she wants Belos to keep up his end of a deal, which he's not going to. So she's basically just fighting for wanting a lie to be true. Once again, it's just like, it perfectly embodies who these two Luce and Belos are, and in their effect on these two sisters, and how different they both are due to having Luce and Belos' influence. Of course, Lilith eventually comes around and realizes that Belos lied, and that if she really has Ida's best interest in heart, best interest of her sister, she'd follow Luce, someone who really cares about Ida. Another good fight, which gets this point across nicely, is Hunter versus Amity in the episode Eclipse Lake. Hunter and Amity both go searching for Titan's blood. Amity wants to give it to Luce, and Hunter wants to give it to Belos. And Hunter brings up the fact that him and Amity have a lot in common. The need to feel useful. Hunter, who is basically his whole life is just to please Belos and Amity, who has lived her whole life trying to please her parents, and now just wants to prove herself to Luce. Of course, Amity doesn't need to prove anything to Luce. And Hunter, no matter what he does, it will never please Belos because the high standards that he set, it's pretty much impossible to reach. And Amity tries to get true to Hunter that he said starts after people who will make him, well, feel good about himself.
You were right. We do have a lot in common. I grew up thinking that everything was an opportunity to justify existing. But there are people out there who won't make you feel worthless. You just have to let yourself meet them.
Speaking of Hunter, let's talk more about him. A long time ago, Belos, well, he wasn't Belos, he was Philip, had an older brother named Caleb, and they were both witch hunters. Until one day, he met a witch named Evelyn, who Caleb basically fell in love with. If you guys remember anything about Belos, you probably know that he wouldn't take his own brother falling in love with a witch that well. So, he did the logical thing. He put his brother out of his misery. Totally not logical, actually. Not logical at all. So, there. He killed his older brother. But it doesn't stop there. Out of his brotherly love for his older brother, he decided that he was gonna bring him back in a way. We'll get to that in a sec. But, so that. This dude, backstabbed his older brother. Literally. Or, in simpler terms.
Big bro got a hot witch girlfriend and little bro got upset. But that's just me.
So, Belos, made a grimoire of his brother. It's basically a clone. Actually, he made hundreds of them. And each one of them eventually betrayed him, realizing how terrible of a apostle he was. So he disposed of all of them. Hunter is the newest one. And starts off as the Golden God. Dead, he basically made for himself. And most people know him as. In fact, really no one else but Belos knew his name was Hunter. And Belos rage tweets as like something only he can say. Basically giving off the impression that Belos is the only one that actually cares about him. But actually Belos doesn't care about him at all. Belos thus sees Hunter as a tool. It's basically a tool for witch hunting. He literally names him Hunter. Once again, very sewing on the way Belos sees him. He basically just killed his brother, remade him, and remade him in the hopes that he'd listen to him this time. And by listen, he means blindly obey him. Hunter slowly began to realize that Belos wasn't the best person, and that the Emperor's Coven isn't as great as he thinks it is. But in the episode Hollow Mind is when it really hits him. And he finds out the truth about being a Grim Walker and all the terrible stuff Belos did. Because, you see, they went inside Belos' mind accidentally. Kinda complicated, a bunch of spell stuff went wrong. But anyway, they ended up there, and it's very interesting. Like, I like the detail that Belos has this whole hallway of paintings that make him look good and stuff. But below it is actually where Belos' real mind is. and all of that. The whole way up there was really more of this made of the lies he tells. And this place is where all of his evil actually can be found. And I like that Belos' inner self is a child, which seems all cute and sweet on the outside, but is really evil on the inside. Embodies Belos really well. And of course, then Belos tries to kill Hunter, realizing that he knows too much. Though Hunter is fine, he is pretty emotionally scarred after all this. In the dog season, Belos gets the ability to possess people after getting splattered and all by the Collector, and ends up possessing Hunter. And tries to force him to kill his friends. Hunter ends up to fight him off for a little while, and finally stands up to him.
Like to attend Hexside as a regular student and play fire derby with my friends. But most of all, I'd like to make sure you never hurt anyone again.
Okay, know how I just said that Belos can possess things now and people? Well, know how like the entire island is a titan? Like a giant magical creature and all? Well, it's pretty much dead, but dunno. He possesses it. Well, it's not fully dead. The heart is still, its heart's kind of beating. So he just jumps into that and possesses it. The entire island. Becomes the most monster-looking thing possible, and that still claims to be the hero in all this. So, he goes on a rampage and attempts to kill everyone on the island. This is the series finale, by the way, and the epic final battle. So Luce, who has recently got a power boost, fights Belos along with King Anita. Put up a real good fight, though it does help that Luce has absorbed power from the Titan which it gave her to help fight, but still. This is the series finale and all. Luce's journey has come full circle and she's fully embraced who she is. And she loses that to defeat Belos. Meanwhile, Belos over here is still so delusional. Luce rips Belos directly out of the Titan's heart and stops his possession over the island. But Belos ain't done. He has one more idea to manipulate Luce and gain control. And it is really, really pathetic. He turns back into his original self, Philip Widowbane, and lies. Big surprise. This lies. Like, this might be his biggest lie yet. So he's all like, know how you saw me do all that bad stuff a second ago? Well, actually, I was cursed the whole time, and I didn't do that, I didn't mean to do that. That was an evil curse, which made me do all those terrible, horrible things. So, but, you know how you did that thing a second ago, like, ripped me out of the, beat me up a second ago? It freed me. I'm free from the curse now, so how about we forget everything bad I did, and, make peace? Which Luce thus stands there with a really angry expression. You can tell that she sees right through Belos' lie, and that she's just like really annoyed that he's still doing it. But then karma happens. You see it rains acid in the Boiling Isles, and it rains all over Belos. Belos melts down into slime skeleton and tries to tell Luce that they're human and therefore she shouldn't be this evil, because she's being so evil right now. Which once again is good for Luce's character arc because she just ignores Belos the whole time because she used to wonder if she was a good person or not. But of course now she realizes it and doesn't let Belos' words get to her. And Belos, who is literally crawling on the ground, grabbing Luce's leg in like a very evil looking way, claims that he is the most pure person in there, and that everyone else is being so evil right now.
Human. We're better than this!
Teenage!
So Belos is melted, and whatever is left is crust. Like, they just stomp on him, just crush him. It's like a really undignified death. But, like, it's perfect for Belos because, like, he claimed to be so much better, you know, a different level than everyone. But he has, like, the most pathetic death possible. I mean, he's melted down and then stepped on. So, he deserved nothing less. Well, he deserved nothing more. He deserved nothing more. Okay, maybe I'm getting this confused. But anyway, Belos deserved it. He deserved it. And with that, Belos is finally dead, and the Boiling Isles is finally at peace. Well, actually, it's pretty destroyed because Belos kind of wrecked the place when he became a giant monster, but it doesn't have an evil dictator anymore. At least I hope not. They never really said who was in charge now. But I highly doubt it. Belos is gone. The main lesson of the Owl House is that you should embrace what makes you different and who you are, and that makes you special. And that's because you might be a little different than everyone. You still, of course, have a place in society. And that you shouldn't be treated badly just because you might be different. In fact, you should be proud of that fact. Like Luce, our main character, learned who she was throughout the series, and that all she wanted in life was to be understood. And that her and her friends, who are also weirdos, need to stick together. Belos is a good opposite to the lesson of this story. Someone who views all the different people as somehow evil and tried to destroy them all. And also did the most evil things, and that didn't realize who he actually was, claiming that he was the hero in all this. And that eventually led to his doom. And Belos is a pretty realistic villain. There are people out there who believe that they are doing the right thing, besides, even though they are doing very bad things. That's because they think that they're the hero, and that they're too prideful to admit that they might be in the wrong. But we should always admit our mistakes and try to learn from them. And it's not wrong to admit when they're wrong. And I hope Belos can be used as a learning opportunity for learning to not judge a book by its cover and accept people who may be different but still have good hearts, and to people who want to make cool villains because he's a good villain. Maybe that would be a good learning opportunity to on how, if you want a villain that you really want to and that they really dislike, Belos is a good example. So that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Maybe tell other people about this video. So spread the word. I don't know. I'd also appreciate if you subscribed. And yeah, I enjoyed making this video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Well, yeah. May the magic be with you always. Bye!